All right, guys, how you doing? I love that music, but someone said, Tim, man, I almost fell asleep. You were playing that music so long. And somebody keeps asking me who makes this song. Uh, Gosh, it's a song I paid to use, so I kind of want to keep it to myself, bro. All right, it's like I pay a service in order to use music you can't find just anywhere. You know what I mean? So, um, email me, I'll send it to you. How about that? Make me feel better. Just email me, I'll send it to you. All right. What can I tell you? Welcome to the Tim Black Show. My name is Tim Black. I'm your host, obviously. And before we get started on what our content will be tonight, I want to give a special acknowledgement to the passing of a great director, John Singleton. John Singleton was only 21 years. John Singleton was only 51 years old. He died of a stroke. He was on life support for several days, and they removed him from life support today. This is it's very heavy on my heart because, for one, we've been losing a lot of people very rapidly. It seems like every time I turn around, someone's passing, and it's someone who has really had an impression on our culture. John Singleton, very instrumental in a lot of lives of a lot of people. He impacted us so much. John Singleton, the story still echoes out about how John Singleton was able to get his movies done in a climate that was adverse to it. He was sort of like the natural, evolution from Spike Lee. Spike Lee broke a lot of ground. He did his movies on a shoestring budget. He used credit cards. And then came John Singleton, and this was a new era, man. He was like just a young man about the same age. We're about the same age. He's a little bit older than I am. But I just remember that feeling, the feeling of John Singleton when he dropped Boys in the Hood. It was like, wow, now they're telling our stories. Then he went on to do Poetic Justice, and he did Baby Boy. He did a remake of Shaft in 2000, and just all these great movies that he did. I'm leaving one out. He did Rosewood, which is a great historical piece with actor Ving Rhames. So John Singleton, 51 years old, he passed away today, but he may be gone in the physical form, but he's still with us through all the great art that he created. People will be able to watch his work from years to come, years and years to come. So I think the greatest credit to an artist is that his work lives on. And I'm sure his family and his friends and his loved ones, his children, they all feel a deep sense of sorrow, and how we feel pales in comparison. But I'm going to miss John Singleton, and I'm just so glad that he lived. So rest in peace, Mr. Singleton, like no other. All right, guys. Moving on, guys. Moving on. I like to. So this is what we're going to do tonight. We're going to cover three main political candidates. We got Buttigieg. Buttigieg. He met with Al Sharpton today. We're going to talk about that. For some reason, Donald Trump I don't know, he's easily goaded into doing stuff. So like he responded to Joe Biden, and we're going to talk about that. But we're going to start off with Elizabeth Warren. Because Elizabeth Warren doesn't get a lot of coverage for some reason. I think I know why, and I think I'm going to explain why I don't believe she gets a lot of coverage and what she can do about it and what I think she's starting to realize she needs to do about it. Elizabeth Warren is a senator from Massachusetts, we all know. She has some progressive policies, some not so progressive, but a lot of it is against the banks and a lot of it is against the 1%. And she seems to be someone who's actually genuinely concerned about folks who work for a living. You know, so there's a lot to like about Elizabeth Warren. There's also some things that people gripe about concerning Elizabeth Warren, and we're going to get to all of that. But what I would like to do first is show you a clip of Elizabeth Warren. She attended and participated in the People convention that was held in Houston, Texas, where a number of candidates, 8 candidates, were able to sit down with these women of color and talk about why you should vote for them. So right after the convention, Elizabeth Warren sat down with Joy Reid, or stood up with Joy Reid, actually. They were standing, and they talked. And Joy Reid asked her some questions. I'm going to share that clip with you, at least some of it, because it's very long, where we can kind of have a discussion about Elizabeth Warren. So let's start with this one.
When you think about this campaign, because we look at it, there are so many people running. Mm-hmm. It's such a crowded field. And distinguishing each candidate is complicated, but you are doing it with policy. Mm-hmm. It's a sort of a fire hose of policy that you're putting out. Do you think that voters vote on policy, or do they vote on personality?
You know, look, for me, this is not so much about the vote and the strategies around it. It's about what's right to fight for. So let me give you an example. Right now, tens of millions of people are getting crushed by student loan debt. And the only thing they tried to do was exactly what America had told them to do. Go get more education after high school. Technical, 2-year, 4-year. That's your ticket to the middle class. They did it. The federal government has said, you're on your own. All they did was load them up with debt. So I have a proposal now so that 43 million Americans, 95% of those who have student loan debt, could see their student loan debt canceled.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to stop right there because I want to comment on this thing. This is going to be long, so I don't want to go through the whole thing. I just want to comment there. So Joy Reid asked Elizabeth Warren. She opened up the conversation saying, hey, Elizabeth, you got like a fire hose worth of policies. You're the policy queen. But do people vote based on policy, or do they vote based on personality? And if you notice, Elizabeth Warren didn't exactly answer the question. In fact, she totally dodged the question. And what did she do? She went right to talking about policy. That's right to the policy portion. And this is something I've seen a lot with the academic folks. You know, people who are concerned with data. And I like data. Everybody likes data, and nothing's wrong with being smart, intelligent, well-versed with the details and the minutia of policy proposals and things of that nature. But they always seem to not respect the ability or the power in charisma. They never seem to truly give it the respect that it deserves, nor the weight that it deserves. The ability to make someone laugh, or the ability to make people feel moved emotionally, or to be able to hit those notes. They bring people in and make people want to listen to your policy. Elizabeth Warren is one of those people. I've met them all my life who, for instance, look at what I do and say, oh, well, you know, I know everything. I know all about the House, the Senate. I know all the policy proposals. I read the whole report I read the whole TPP. I know it inside out. And they forget totally that no one wants to listen to you. Because you're boring, or you're condescending, or you're an ass, or you're just bland. You're a mayonnaise sandwich on wheat bread. That matters. So Elizabeth Warren started talking about a policy about student debt. And that's great. Great stuff. I mean, who doesn't want to remove their debt? Yeah, I heard like one guy, like a libertarian dude, I think his name is Sticks. Sticks was saying he didn't want his debt reduced. He'd rather just pay off his debt, you know, instead of like being able to have it like gone. He'd rather just pay on it because he doesn't want to socialize like education. Hey, Sticks. Anybody know Sticks? Tell Sticks I said, speak for yourself, brother. Speak for yourself. My son has a hefty school loan right now, and it's hard for him to find a job. I know it may be easier for you, you know, but I don't know if you notice or not, but a lot of people who end up with degrees, even if they get the degrees, who have all this debt, are having a hard time finding jobs where they can use those degrees. And being as though we're in America, where, I don't know, a white guy with a white guy who dropped out of high school is worth about as much as a black guy with a degree, you might see a disparity there. You know, here's the thing, dude. You may not think it matters or it's not a good idea because you're a Trump supporter. I get it. People support Trump and they want to root for him. But let's keep it real. There are a lot of people who would be helped by not having all that school debt. We got people who with $100,000 worth of debt hanging over their head when they come out of school. There are people almost my age, not quite my age, but I know people who are 40 who are still paying school loans. So, be that as it may. I like Elizabeth Warren's proposal, but I haven't looked at the fine details of it. She's on the right track. Let's see what else she has to talk about or what the conversation is with Joy Reid.
That would change lives, lots of lives. And here's the thing, I've already got it paid for. So this isn't, fairy dust, and this is real stuff. I have proposed an ultra millionaire's wealth tax that is 2 cents on the biggest fortunes in this country, everything above $50 million, your $50 million and first dollar.
I'm going to leave it there because there's a lot of content. There's a lot. I suggest you go watch this. The whole clip is like 16 minutes, guys. And I don't think I should play a 16-minute clip on my show. I don't own that content. But I will tell you this. Let me summarize some of it. Okay, so Elizabeth Warren has a lot of policies. She has the redlining policy to combat redlining, which I think is very much a policy that needs to be activated. I'm glad she came up with it. I'm glad she's pushing it. She, of course, supports Medicare for all. She also has a policy for a tax plan, right, which will make the richest folks pay more money in taxes. And she quotes and she has all the statistics, and it's very empowering. This is great stuff. Now, in that clip with Joy Reid, though, Joy Reid asked an important question. And I'm often critical of Joy Reid because, well, she's Joy Reid, right? Used to be a Bernie supporter, then went for Hillary and lost her mind, right? But she says to Elizabeth Warren, she says, Elizabeth, let's just say for the sake of argument, you become the nominee. You win. You go up against Trump. With your types of policies, there's going to be a lot of money given to your opposition. And Elizabeth Warren was like, yeah, you're right. I get that. But I will correct Joy on one part. There's going to be a lot of money given to her opposition while she's running in the Democratic Party. Yeah. I mean, there are rich folks who will give money to, say, I don't know, Joe Biden in order to stop Elizabeth Warren from getting a nomination. Because it's a funny thing that happens when rich people's money start getting taken away or the threat of their money going away. They fight back. Yeah, they fight back. You may have heard of it. They tend not to like to lose money. So that's why they're rich to begin with. From, loopholes and tax shelters and putting their money overseas, way away from, us poor, peasants. So Elizabeth Warren is going to have to contend with that. Same as Bernie. In fact, the reason why Bernie Sanders gets slandered so much, and Elizabeth Warren to a lesser degree, is because he's more progressive and he's going after the top 1%. And he's going after the big corporations. So, of course, big corporations have big pockets, and they use that money and they pay adversaries. It's not rocket science. Same thing's happening to Elizabeth Warren, but the way that she gets stopped is also due to her lack of charisma. And something else I want to get to about Elizabeth Warren. It's her lack of inspiring others. See, this is the thing. See, Elizabeth Warren used to be a Republican. I'm not holding that against her. A lot of people used to be a lot of things, okay? But here's the thing. She's more of a renovator, you know? She wants to renovate the Democratic Party. She wants to renovate some of these policies. Bernie Sanders is more of a revolutionary. He wants to tear it down and build it up, you know? So it's a harder slug to tear it down and build it up. But what happens when the message goes out? Which message is more inspiring? You just want to come in and paint over the dirty walls and paint over the cracks? Or if you want to put in new walls and rebuild the infrastructure from the ground up and totally renovate the whole thing, tear it all down, build it all up. Which one inspires more people? Of course it's to tear it down and build it all the way back up. Who wants the house with just a paint job on it, even if it's nice paint? And here's the thing about that. It's not just that, Bernie's more, he's more progressive and blah, 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 like some people would like to say. But the point of it is, it inspires a base. It inspires the base. It makes people want to come out and vote. It makes people not just want to come out and vote, it makes people want to come out and volunteer. And it makes people want to run for office. And it makes people donate. Small dollar donations from a lot of people. That's what you get when you put your foot in the ground and turn hard left. Foot in the ground, hard left. Not gingerly move to the left. And I would be wrong if I didn't also admit that a lot of the fire that Elizabeth Warren could have, she threw it away in making bad tactical decisions. How could you not go and support Dapple? How could you not support the folks that stand in Rock? Here you are claiming, hey, I'm Native American. How could you not go do it? Now, don't get me wrong. You don't have to be Native American to go support the Stand in Rock, the Dakotas and Lakotas, and no Dapple. You don't have to be. But if you're going to claim it and then not show up and then put a little funky little Facebook post up, well, yeah, you're going to piss people off. And people are going to go, hey, she talks well sometimes, but we can't trust her to back it up. Not when something's on the line, and when something's on the line is when you show who you are. Speaking of something on the line, I know it was difficult for Elizabeth Warren to even think about not supporting Hillary Clinton. Tough choice. I mean, how do you, as a woman, just say, I'm not going to support the first woman who really has a shot to become president? I mean, it could have been the end of her career, correct? Don't you think people would be blaming Elizabeth Warren like they blame Susan Sarandon? I mean, Susan Sarandon doesn't even hold office, and they blame her. Imagine the blame she would have received if she would have picked Bernie and Hillary still became the nominee and Hillary lost. They would be blaming Elizabeth Warren. You know how they treat Nina Turner. Nina Turner's not even in office anymore. And they still blame Nina Turner. They still dog Nina Turner, call her every name except a daughter of God, because she didn't back Hillary Clinton. To this day, almost 4 years later. So I know it was difficult for some people don't take it in consideration. They go, but she should have just went with Bernie. I agree. She should have went with Bernie. But that's what risk takers do. That's what Tulsi Gabbard did, and it cost her. They still trying to run people to replace Tulsi Gabbard in Hawaii as a representative because of Hillary. And also peace, being anti-war, anti-regime change, AKA messing with their money. So Elizabeth Warren has several reasons why Elizabeth Warren is not the flavor of the month and why she is barely, just barely inches away from the second string of candidates running for the Democratic primary. But I think she's finally smelt the coffee. She realizes, hey, you know what? Hey, I'm here now. I might as well throw caution to the wind. I might as well be more gutsy. I might as well take more chances. You don't get, look, nothing's promised. I'm going to go for it because of this. This clip I'm about to show you makes me think maybe Elizabeth Warren is woken up.
Our disagreement is a matter of public record. At a time when the biggest financial institution public record. At a time when our disagreement is a matter of public record. At a time when the biggest financial institutions in this country were trying to put the squeeze on millions of hardworking families who were in bankruptcy because of medical problems, job losses, divorce, and death in the family. There was nobody to stand up for them. I got in that fight because they just didn't have anyone. And Joe Biden was on the side of the credit card companies. It's all a matter of public record.
Yeah.
Fox News host Tucker Carlson said,
Yeah. That was Elizabeth Warren calling out Joe Biden by name. She didn't throw something and hide her hand. You know how the politicians do, you know. Take a cheap shot at you and then just leave your name out, like Buttigieg has been doing with Bernie. Well, you know, some people are just too angry. You need to get along with people. Get along with people. It's better to get along. And so what I'm saying is, if we get along and kiss butt, maybe then we'll get what we want through attrition. Because they'll get tired of kicking our butts. Then eventually their feet will start to hurt, and then they'll stop kicking our butts. And then maybe if we're really nice boys and girls, we'll get what we want. You know, that's Peter Buttigieg. His style of politics, which is really not, you know, bucking trends. So I like the fact that Elizabeth Warren called out Joe Biden. She should. He in her way. He's trying to be in her lane, sort of, kind of, but not really. But still, yeah, go after him. You got nothing to lose, Elizabeth Warren. Go after him. Now, just to kind of, you know, further underline what I'm saying about Elizabeth Warren and her reliance on policy being to her detriment. Though it's great, because then, like, logically you say, Tim, wrong, Tim Black, policy should always carry the day. Okay, I understand what you're saying. You're right, logically. But realistically, how things sound, how things look, how you feel, that matters too. Yeah, it matters too. For instance, now I'm about to play a clip from Steve Bannon on this subject where he was talking about Elizabeth Warren. I don't usually sit around like waiting to watch like Steve Bannon's thoughts on stuff. But just because his name is Steve Bannon doesn't mean he's not right about something sometimes. Check out this clip.
Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has
history. He's going to get a vote on. Look what he's done to in this Democratic primary. Look what he's done to Elizabeth Warren already. She's probably got some of the most well-formed, policy positions, particularly compared to some of the other candidates on the left. He's basically blown her up already. She's in single digits. I don't think she'll break out, and that's because Trump gets a vote in the Democratic primary. That's unlike any time in American history. He's going to get a vote on who his opponent's going to be.
I rest my case. Now, don't get me wrong, I think she can make up ground. I think that it's still possible. But I also would like to submit this idea, guys, before I let this segment go, right? Maybe you're not supposed to be president. Yeah, maybe Elizabeth Warren should not be president. Maybe Elizabeth Warren should serve in some other capacity. I mean, we got a lot of candidates, right? And they're all running for different reasons, right? I think some people are running just to be running to get name recognition, get a better job, frankly. And why not? You get to run on other people's money. Why not? I mean, really, what are they risking? But I don't think everybody who's running should become president. I think it takes a certain skill set, a certain machine around you, a lot of things. Just because you want something doesn't mean you should have it. Just something to think about. I mean, hey, I wouldn't mind being a all-star rapper. Just didn't have the lyrical ability at that level. I wouldn't mind being Richard Pryor. Probably should have started at least 10 years earlier, right? Maybe, figure skater. Just didn't have a figure for it. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, just because you want to do something doesn't mean you're supposed to do it. It doesn't mean it's owed to you. It doesn't mean that's where your natural fit is. Elizabeth Warren, I think she is amazingly smart. I think that she's a great teacher. Behold, she was a teacher, right? Professor, and a lot of great other attributes. I'm just not convinced yet, right? I'm not convinced that that attribute is leader, risk taker, or true presidential contender. That ain't hate. That's just how I see it. All right, let's move on to the next segment. All right, so Donald Trump. Now, one thing about Donald Trump that's crazy, I think, is how he allows certain people to get his goat. I mean, even when the guy's doing well, like, after the Mueller report came out and there was no ruling that said he colluded with Russia, this guy's been floating on a cloud, you would think. Like, why would you make a gaffe? But Donald Trump, being a guy with a big ego, he has to respond to assertions made by people who he really shouldn't be responding to. And I noticed that a lot of conservatives have not brought it up. They have ignored this. I wonder why. Here's a clip that made Donald Trump lose his position and start a news cycle that he really didn't need. Check it out.
They're created with certain inalienable rights.
Former Vice President Joe Biden announced that he's running for the Democratic presidential nomination.
Self-evident. We know him to the author of one of the great documents. Charlottesville, Virginia is home to the author of one of the Charlottesville, Virginia is home to the author of one of the great documents in human history. We know it by heart. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. We've heard it so often, it's almost a cliche, but it's who we are. We haven't always lived up to these ideals. Jefferson himself didn't, but we have never before walked away from them. Charlottesville is also home to a defining moment for this nation in the last few years. It was there on August of 2017 we saw Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis come out in the open. Their crazed faces, illuminated by torches, veins bulging and bearing the fangs of racism, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. And they were met by a courageous group of Americans, and a violent clash ensued. And a brave young woman lost her life. And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides? With those words, the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it.
And just like that, a story that had went away, a story that was in the past that definitely was, I think, it hurt Donald Trump in many ways. It made Donald Trump look horrible to I know a lot of black folks who heard that comment who thought, wow, no way I'm ever going to support Donald Trump. I mean, this guy is saying that the white nationalist people are fine people. It was a horrible thing. Now, I know technically, like, Trump came out, he wanted to clean it up and everything at the time, but so much time had went by, it's totally a forced, so much time had went by, it was totally an unforced error for Donald Trump to bring this up, to even respond to Joe Biden's campaign ad. I mean, it was a whack ad. It looks like an infomercial or a documentary trailer. Why would Trump need to go on the record and talk about it? He'd already talked about it. This is something everybody knew about. Everyone knows about Charlottesville. But he got goaded into it. He made a comment. Here goes the comment.
And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation.
2017, which is not a topic I
think there were very fine people on both sides in Charlotte. Well, I've answered that question, and if you look at what I said, you will see that that question was answered perfectly. And I was talking about people that went because they felt very strongly about the monument to Robert E. Lee, a great general, whether you like it or not. He was one of the great generals. I've spoken to many generals here, right at the White House, and many people thought of the generals, they think that he was maybe their favorite general. People were there protesting the taking down of the monument of Robert E. Lee. Everybody knows that.
All right. So that's when he came out. Trump couldn't hold it back. He couldn't hold in. He had to talk about it. He could have just said, I responded to that. No comment. Joe Biden who? Who? Bzz, bzz. What? Joe Biden what? He could have done that. But instead, as being a slave to his own ambition, a slave to his own ego, a slave to Trumpism himself, having Trump derangement syndrome himself, he could not resist the temptation to defend his name. How do you defend the indefensible? And he does it by saying Robert E. Lee was a great general. To who? Robert E. Lee was fighting to maintain slavery. I can hear Candace Owens now making an excuse. Oh, I can hear it now. Or that guy Paris, whatever his name is, they always bring him out and he just starts doing the tap dancing. Paris Denard or something, you know? Well, they might not bring him out because then he got like a problem going on. Anyway, the point is this. Donald Trump did not need to do this. This was an unforced error. And I don't know, man. I don't think I heard Ben Shapiro or all these Trump supporter people, Steven Crowder or whatever, I don't think I heard them say, hey, Trump, you screwed up. Because, see, they don't have the ability to be as critical of their president as they should be. Now, I'm not the only one who thought it was bad or stupid or crazy or just plain undisciplined. And it was only further proven to be a horrible move when we have a hate crime attack out there in California. What is it, Poway, California? Some jackass attacks a synagogue and kills a person, kills a woman, and wounds 3 others. Right after Donald Trump made this comment. Bringing it back up. Now what? Now it's in the news cycle for the next couple of days. Now, just to prove to you guys that I'm not the only one who feels this way, right? there's a couple of Republicans on this next clip I'm about to play who agree with me, who think Donald Trump didn't need to run his mouth about this. He should have just let it go. Here's that clip.
I would think, you think, based on what Democrats who say that the president took Biden's bait in the fact that we're now talking about his response to Charlottesville from August 2017, which is not a topic I would think you think, based on what you said at the time, that the president is a strong subject for President Trump.
Well, I think that he should stay away from it. I mean, it was a bad moment for the president when it came to Charlottesville. But I must say that his response yesterday, in response to the shooting, was actually timely and very good. It's something that's meaningful to me because the Jewish people mean a lot to me and my family. We spend Passover dinner every year with the Green family out in Utah, and so I actually appreciated that timely response, and those are the things that we expect and hope from a president.
What about you? Do you think that President Trump took Joe Biden's bait by talking about Charlottesville?
Yeah, look, Jake, I repeatedly say that we should be talking about the economy. The president should be talking about the accomplishments. The debate is now turned to talking about Charlottesville. A week or so ago, it was on Green New Deal, free college, letting felons in prison, who's still in prison, vote, socialized medicine, lots of things that are very favorable for Republicans to a position that may not be so favorable for this president.
All righty then, I'm not the only one to say, hey, probably not the right sandbox to be playing in. Totally unnecessary. But wasn't that kind of weird with me? I love just said, I have a strong connection with the Jewish people. I feel really sad about this. Like, I don't have to have a special connection or eat dinner with Jewish people to feel bad about somebody shooting them, like a massacre. Like, I don't know why. It just felt kind of weird, Anyway, back to this point. So anyway, I think that Donald Trump, like, he made a big mistake here, and I like seeing how people don't respond and don't call they don't call water as being wet. They don't call the skies being blue. They don't make grass be green. Like they try to ignore reality, and that is that Donald Trump, this is self-inflicted wound, and it's on him, and this looks bad, and it shows that he is worried about Biden. I think he may have also responded, though, if it would have been Bernie Sanders or if it may have been Kamala Harris. And maybe Elizabeth Warren, just for fun, because he likes to stick it to her. But I think of a lesser opponent on the Democratic side made that statement about or put out a video where they were denouncing Charlottesville and denouncing Trump's response to it. I don't think Trump would have responded. So the fact that he responded shows a chink in his armor, I think. And also that he's petty, even when it hurts him. All right. Moving on to, before we move on, guys, I want to let you know that this show is not sponsored by the GOP or the DNC or any political party, okay? This show is run by me, TBTV, Tim Black TV, Take Back Television, and we do everything here. So if it wasn't for the people who watch this show, there would be no show, okay? So become a member of the Tim Black Wolfpack if you would like to contribute to the show and help it keep it going. You can find that on patreon.com, Tim's Take Live, or you can do it on YouTube. And pretty soon you'll be able to join on Facebook as well. Real hard-hitting news. Like, we may not always agree, but it's never because I'm connected to the Democrats or the Republicans. I don't mince words. I believe what I believe, but it's not influenced by money or trying to get a job or a position. Fair enough? All right. Speaking about being fair enough, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Yeah, that's like, everywhere I look, they got Buttigieg going on. I don't understand it. He's polling it like he's not, we'll get to his polling, but we're going to talk about his polling, and we're going to talk about something that happened today. It was kind of weird. Buttigieg had lunch with cameras around him because he had a special date.
Shouldn't he be inside?
It's amazing. Well, it's a long road.
It is. You got any things you wish you knew when you set out on the road?
Well, the grind is nobody can prepare you for the grind. And I think that the thing that I think is more important than anything is being authentic. I think that people.
All right. You probably couldn't hear that. The mic was really far away from where these two guys were sitting. It's just a bunch of, blah, 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 blah. And it's also not good to film people while they're eating. Like, Pete's trying to look like he's real comfortable, eating the greens or whatever. And Sharpton sitting up there with a piece of bread and some coffee because, he had his stomach stapled like a decade ago, looking like Skeletor Man. But what I find, that's inconsequential because what is significant is that Pete Buttigieg is sitting there with Al Sharpton. Yeah. They know each other or something? These are buddies? They probably don't even follow each other on Twitter. Why is Pete Buttigieg sitting there with Al Sharpton? I'll tell you why. Because Buttigieg isn't doing so good with the blacks. And hey, man, best way to make a pro-black statement is to sit with Al Sharpton. I mean, I guess Huggy Bear wasn't available. Who else he gonna get? Flavor Flav was tied up, and Samuel Jackson told him to go to hell. I mean, I'm just saying, he really didn't have a choice. He had to choose somebody black that's in politics, So anyway, and you might be wondering, like, okay, so he's not doing so well with blacks, right? No, he's really not. Like, I saw 3 polls. In one of the polls, Pete Buttigieg was polling at 0% with black voters. That's people that met him. Like, it wasn't like, these people don't know him. No, he'd been there. They were polling in places that he'd been campaigning, okay? They just weren't into him. So I saw 0% with blacks and 2% with blacks. In the same place, he was polling at like 15% and 13% with white folks. So there's definitely a disconnection between him, but with Pete Buttigieg, and he really has no crossover appeal. He's like, I don't know, he's like Marky Mark. And, he's like Marky Mark. Remember Mark Wahlberg, he put out a record? You probably don't. Mark Wahlberg put out a rap record, it didn't do so good. But, like Eminem now, that's different. Eminem crossed over all the way and, he sold a lot of records. So anyway, point is this. Only people that bought Mark Wahlberg's record were white guys. But black and white guys bought Eminem's. Slim Shady, right? All right, so anyway, so here goes some more. I got another clip of Pete Buttigieg and people talking about what's going on with his campaign.
When we go to church, sometimes there's a guy marching up and down the street with big signs, same-sex marriage.
My bad, guys. I don't know what happened to that clip. It was just a clip of people on the panel going, Pete's got to do better with the blacks. Like, yeah, he sure's got to do better. It was a really good clip, too. Tremaine, I forget his name, Tremaine, guy, really intelligent guy was talking about it and just saying how Pete needs to shore it up. Okay, so one of the reasons why Pete's not doing so well with black folks, and I don't even think this really matters to it, but this is going to hurt him. I don't think people know this outside of like South Bend, Indiana. Back in 2015, Pete Buttigieg gave this speech, right? And he was like, all lives matter, And people got really pissed like, yo, what you mean all lives matter, man? We Black Lives Matter. You in a city that's 40% black. You don't know that Black Lives Matter is like a thing? And this was back in 2015 at the height of Black Lives Matter. Right? It's kind of cooled off a little bit now, but we're talking about back when it was popping. And I know there's a lot of people trying to make this seem like, oh, it was nothing. He had no idea what he was saying. And they're making up every excuse in the world for why he would say all lives matter instead of Black Lives Matter. Now, I know there's still people to this day who don't get it. Look, the house that's on fire is the house that needs the water. Okay? That's why Black Lives Matter, because it's on fire. Everybody's, isn't on fire. All the houses aren't on fire. Just the Black Lives Matter houses, the black houses. So we're going to put water on the place where there's a fire. That's all it is. It never meant that white people don't matter. Of course white people matter. This is your country. I mean, by and large, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So of course, so anyway, bottom line is this. He said that, and I think it's going to come back to bite him. And I think that's part of the reason why he needs to be there with Al Sharpton, eating greens and chilling out. And I don't think that's going to do it. It's similar, to the Hillary with the hot sauce thing. It's going to take more than that. Now, just to further underscore the whole all lives matter, Black Lives Matter monkey on his back, let me show you a clip. This I do have.
My question for the candidates is, do Black Lives matter or do all lives matter?
The question from Arthur in Des Moines is, do Black Lives matter or do all lives matter? Let's put that question to Senator Sanders.
Black Lives Matter. And the reason those words matter is the African American community knows that on any given day, some innocent person like Sandra Bland can get into a car, and then 3 days later, she's going to end up dead in jail, or their kids are going to get shot. We need to combat institutional racism from top to bottom, and we need major, major reforms in a broken criminal justice system in which we have more people in jail than China. And I intend to tackle that issue to make sure that our people have education and jobs rather than jail cells.
Pretty impressive, huh? Yeah, that was Bernie Sanders in 2015, talking about Black Lives Matter. See, they want to say that Pete Buttigieg didn't know, the difference, that all lives matter was basically a pejorative created to, kick dirt on Black Lives Matter. You say Black Lives, we say all lives. It was like a way to discredit Black Lives Matter. That's really what it was. But they say, oh, Pete had no idea. Then why did Bernie Sanders know and Pete not know? Come on, man. Also, I find it very strange that Pete said this as he was on his run-up to his second term for mayor. He said all lives matter at a rally when he was running for mayor to get reelected. He said it in November. The election was coming up in November. Here goes Pete with his explanation.
My question for the candidates is,
what I did not understand at that time was that phrase, just early into especially 2015, was coming to be viewed as a sort of counter slogan to Black Lives Matter. And so this statement that seems very anodyne and something that kind of nobody could be against actually wound up being used to devalue what the Black Lives Matter movement was telling us. And it's a reason why, since learning about how that phrase was being used to push back on that activism, I've stopped using it in that context.
Look, it's not that big a deal. It's not going to cost him an election. Not at all. I mean, he didn't have a shot anyway. But it's just the extent that people will go in order to make exceptions for him. Look, the guy said it, he said it. Martin O'Malley did the same dumb crap. But he said it for a reason. He made a decision. It was judicial decision. It was strategic. It wasn't a slip of the tongue, and it wasn't because he didn't know. If you know All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter started way before All Lives Matter. He didn't know that that's where it came from, then he shouldn't have been giving a speech. If you're that much disconnected. So either you and your team suck, like you don't keep up with what's going on in the world, or you're not telling the truth. And I think it's the latter. I think you're just not telling the truth. I think you like to use the, oh, shucks, I'm just a really good guy who just try my best to treat everybody really well and swell. But I'm really lying, you know? Like, that's what I think's going on with Pete, all right? And that's what, I just don't trust it. I just don't. I would rather you just say, you know what, I made a, hey. I think you stop using it because it costs you politically, because once again, you live in a city that's 40% black. And maybe if you had more diverse staff, how are you not going to have any black people on your staff there, Pete? I mean, your city is 40% black. I've heard people criticize Bernie when he was mayor in Burlington. I don't know how many black people live in Burlington, Vermont, or live there. I know it's not 40%. All right? That I know, okay? So I don't know why such a disparity in a city where you have a lot of diversity. But for some reason, it didn't trickle down into your campaign. It didn't trickle down into your office. And that's a problem. And that's how problems like this happen. So anyway, I'm going to let that go, guys. That's how I feel about that. And you can make your own mind up. Let me know what you think in the comments section, you know? Hey, look, man, people say all lives matter. Fine, do your thing. But if you're running in the Democratic Party and you need a bunch of black people to vote for you if you have any shot, maybe that's a bad idea. Maybe it helped you in Indiana, in South Bend, but it ain't going to help you on the national stage. And that's the type of thing you need to be thinking about. What else? I think that's it. I think that's all I got, right? Oh, one last thing, guys. I saw a Tulsi Gabbard video. It was from her campaign. I don't know where she was, but she was with the people, as she is so often, with the people. And there was a conversation with her and another woman, and it was just such a touching moment. And Tulsi Gabbard's response to this woman who's laying it all out, she's saying, Tulsi, we really need you, and we need you to, to stick by us, to lead this thing, and we believe in you. But how can you do this? How could you ever crack through all of the corruption and all of the garbage? And this woman has tears in her eyes, and she's real, and it's visceral. You can feel it. I mean, if you got a post, you feel this woman's passion, her frustration, her sadness, her sorrow. And Tulsi Gabbard's response to her is so genuine, so real. I mean, I know this is politics, and politicians sometimes politic, right? But what I felt from Tulsi Gabbard there was a moment of just pureness, pure. She responded to it like, you know what? I get more hate. I get more obstacles. And I'm paraphrasing. I get more hate and more obstacles from the Democratic Party than I do the Republicans. And then she said something else. What good would it be to elect a Democrat if their policies don't help us? Yeah, see, it's that type of talk. It's that type of realness, right? Honesty. That you know there's a price to pay for that. Now, you can say, oh, well, it's calculated and it's this, it's that. Yo, that's a price. There's a price to pay for that, for being that outspoken. So I want to apply Tulsi Gabbard. I want to, I just want to say now, I already told her that how I felt about this tape, about this recording. And I've already sent out a tweet where I shared it with everyone that I could about what I thought about it. I think it is the premier piece of campaign footage of this entire season so far. That's how powerful I think it is. And I think that Tulsi Gabbard is a contender in so many ways, and I think that the forces to be, the powers that be, have all lined up to stop her, because I think she is a huge threat. We all know she's a threat to the military-industrial complex, but she's a threat to the Democratic Party. So I support Tulsi Gabbard. I support Bernie Sanders. I'm trying to help Elizabeth Warren get it together, because I would like to support her as well. But I'm totally moved by that Tulsi Gabbard video. If you know what I'm talking about, let people know in the comment section. I may do a video on it as well. Before I leave, guys, I want to let you know, I did a video where I was critical of Bernie Sanders and how he handled a town hall event at this, at the She the People event in Houston, Texas. I stand behind my criticism of Bernie Sanders. To the person who wrote me the hateful letter telling me I was bashing Bernie, you don't know what bashing is. I just simply was critiquing Bernie. I was calling Bernie out. He has to do better. He is going up against the establishment. He can't miss opportunities. And I know it's an unfavorable situation. He's in an environment that's adversarial, that they're looking for stuff, that these people have been indoctrinated with the idea that Bernie don't do good with the blacks, when Bernie's polling as well as Biden with black folks. And Biden just finished serving with the first black president, which gives him a cosign that no one else can have, right? Keep it real. So we know that all the forces have converged against Bernie, but Bernie's doing well with black folks. That's not my point. My point is, no more stump speeches when you got your moment. I want Bernie to shine when he's on those stages. Now, you can cover for him, and you can be mad at me and all that other stuff, but you know what? I'm not you. And if all the rest of these political commentators or pundits or whatever we're called are all making excuses for it or trying to explain it, I got to be the one that calls him out on it, because that's who I am and that's what I'm doing, okay? If that makes me a traitor to Bernie, I don't know how that could happen, because I never signed any documentation for Bernie, okay? I didn't give a blood oath. He don't owe me money. I don't owe him money, okay? So there's nothing, you can't call me any of that. I'm an independent. I vote for who I choose. So you can take you and your little hateful letter and all this other stuff about I let you down and all that, and you can take it and ball it up, and you can hide it somewhere in an orifice. You choose. All right, guys, that's it. Yeah, you got to write me hate mail. Yeah, Buttigieg people could call me up and say I'm bashing them. Biden people could call me up and say I'm bashing them. But don't hit me up with that, you bashing Bernie, because since I said he's using stump speeches. Talk to these people. I get up here and talk to you. Bernie can talk. Make excuses. Everybody want to make excuses. Don't worry, your viewers aren't going to leave. It's okay. He can be wrong sometimes. It's fine. All right, guys. Real Tim Black, at Real Tim Black on Twitter, at Real Tim Black on Facebook. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Oh, go to justinformed.com, become a member of their website, justinformed.com. Go do that today. Peace. Oh, and shout out to Ron Schultz for becoming a member of the Tim Black Wolfpack. Welcome aboard, Ron. And shout out to Mr. Broken A's. Please make and hang a free Assange poster locally. Hey, put up an Assange poster that says, my man, Mr. Broken. So, peace, y'all.